I'm so glad to see you here, Holly, finally. And
I,
and
I would get here unless my leg fall apart or something. I will always be here. And luckily, I was already here working, and something tells me I should check my email. So I did. And from the moment I saw the live link, I'm like, oh, let's go.
So thank you so much here, and let me officially welcome you to this thing. So Holly is an ex-Amazonian interview and corporate trainer, and probably you have seen her videos and maybe got in touch with the articles and other things. So I want to hear who is Holly, just like a basic information, apart from the legend.
I teach people how to say, tell me about yourself every single day. But when someone's asking me that same question, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
goodness,
tough
really
question to
gonna
answer.
So, hello, everybody. If we're meeting for the first time, I have been in tech recruiting and interview training for about 25 years, but my longest employment has been with Amazon for 7 years, where I used to build data center around the world for B2B, Amazon Consumer, Alexa, as well as Kindle. But for the last 4 years, I had an amazing time being an entrepreneur as a CEO of my own coaching company. Love my YouTube channel and just putting myself and my content out there to help those who couldn't afford to hire a coach, especially right now during the recessions and during these live, just to make sure that I'm giving back to the community.
Absolutely
Nice.
wonderful. So I want to add in, when I was actually interviewing for Amazon and I was looking for tips and suggestions. Obviously, Bessa was one of the chief sources of information, and then I found Holly on YouTube, and I went through so many of her videos, and which helped me so much in my interviews. So they are absolutely great and real mind openers. So thank you so much for that, Holly. And I definitely wanted you to share the tips with our audience as well, so even they can leverage those strengths.
I get
So
embarrassed
totally
every time someone says that. I run across a video. I'm like, oh no, that video, no. Yeah.
I want to start with a very silly question. Maybe I'm too ignorant. What is this SPCC?
It's Certified Senior Professional Certification. So it's a certification for career coaches. Because I'm very ambitious, it's not that I don't know how to train or coach. I just want to get certified, like AWS certification. If you're a
Hmm.
solution architect for 25 years, you want to go and get solution architect just so that you could say, I have it. So
Yeah.
SPCC is a certification for coaches. No one has ever asked me that before.
Yeah, means people assume I sometime like I'm too ignorant for real world. So I thought maybe it is something very complicated. So why not ask? Because sometimes people feel that, hey, why should I ask? Because it maybe people everyone knows and I'm just the ignorant one. So I don't stop asking dumb questions. Maybe for a time I'm dumb, but now I'm much enlightened about SPCC. Otherwise, if I'm not asked, I would never know.
Yeah, in the coaching
Say,
community, it's like having a doctorate degree or like an
wow.
MBA or something. So it's different.
I know you do a lot of things, Holly, and I want to start with very basic thing that what is keeping you busy nowadays? Like what you are doing on a day-to-day basis?
You're asking me a very tough question here. Prior to all the layoff, all the recession, I have been extremely busy with everything you can think of, having hundreds of emails, usually around this time every single day. Now it's the same level of busy, but rather than having people into my coaching program, I'm not joking with you, I'm reviewing LinkedIn profile and resume for free. I've been doing that a lot. So I spend a lot of my time helping people that I know, people in my network. There's a lot of ex-Amazonians, Facebook, Google, basically a lot of people who work with me in the past before are connecting with me, where I went from not doing any consultation call to jumping on a call with them now because I do care. There's just too many of them. I have a soft spot for single parents because I am myself. So every now and then, when I do have a little bandwidth, I do have free Zoom coaching call for them. I just did one with 50 people 2 weeks ago, and I put that on my LinkedIn as well. So that's what I've been doing a lot. When you guys reach out to me to do this, I'm like, this piece of cake. I just did a 2-hour Zoom call with 50 people. Sure, I'll do this, right? So I'm very passionate to find ways on how I can truly give back to the community because people are so anxious right now. I know sometimes it gets
Exactly.
into they're so anxious. If you tell them, hey, watch my 281 YouTube video, they will shut down. Nobody wants to
true.
do that because they have bills to pay at the end of the day. So I spend a lot of my time kind of coaching them and mentoring them on the very quiet LinkedIn or social media background.
It's good to hear that passion and drive to help community because yeah, it's a tough time. I won't deny it. It's been like a tunnel, and any light you see on the end of the tunnel is always welcoming. So really
Mhm.
appreciate you doing it. And probably you have seen a lot of stories of transformation and all. So we would go into that. But like from a recruiter perspective, I have a first question to start with: how the recruitment process looks for these FAANG companies, where you have very insight on all other platforms. So I want to hear about it, that how this process actually looks like.
Well, funny that you ask. I talk about this a lot on my work and my YouTube channel and my clients as well. I always tell them that one form or another, the process is very, very similar with all the FANG, which is, the phone interview, the on-site, and so on and so forth. The one thing that really differentiate is raising the bar when you're interviewing for FANG, because
Mm-hmm.
FANG are very specific, right? They look for talents that come from a wide breadth of knowledges. I talk a lot about having the right scope and scale. And a lot of people, believe it or not, they get lost when I say, "What I want to learn more about your scope and scale. What exactly have you done?" And they're all over the place. So if you want to land a job with FANG, you have to be very clear, very specific on what you have built relating to solution architect and tech here, even for non-tech.
Mm-hmm.
And I only talk about one topic, and you guys are going to laugh because you're Amazonian. Amazon. I focus so much on the Amazon process and the Amazon bar and the Amazon standard, which is why my YouTube is all about Amazon. Because if you can reach the bar of providing specific execution of the problem that you saw very clearly and how you have done it, people will love you. Interviewers at Google, at Meta, at Apple, at startup, everyone is. So I set that bar very high. I don't talk too much about the Amazon leadership principle, because if your answer is good, you will hit most of all the leadership principle, because you will be able to deliver result with flying colors. So what is the process of working for FANG companies? I'm not being biased, by the way. Amazon is not paying me to do this, but I would say follow the Amazon interview process to a T. And I preach this for the last 4 years. It works like flying colors. It works for not just mid-level people, but there's a lot of VP who came
Mm-hmm.
to me and watched how I study the STAR method. This is not just any STAR method, because people can take your content and translate it to whatever they want, but truly be intentional in the type of ways that you communicate and don't waste time. Because if you're able to demonstrate that, all the employers would love you. And that's why I really admire the entire process at Amazon, down to the debrief, where you only have about 30 seconds, a minute. I teach the 1 minute rule, by the way. Any kind of answer, it's true. You have about 1 minute. 1 minute is 8 to 10 sentences, by the way. Did you know that? When you talk for
No.
1 minute, it's 8 to 10 sentences. It's a lot of sentence,
Okay.
right? It
Wow.
is. I talk about that, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, she's crazy. She doesn't know what she's talking about." But you know what? Almost 8,000 people get a job because of that. We're not talking about answering any of your questions in 1 minute. I'm talking about bouncing back and forth. So the entire answer should be about 8 minutes or 10 minutes, but you have to cut it short. You need to have a process. People think that I'm just going to go study and the cheat sheet, the interview question. I'm going to get a job at Google and Amazon, all this company. That's great. But what exactly is your answer? How do you position your answer if you're talking to a higher level person, your peers, or your future managers? So they don't think about that stuff. I would say be very intentional in the way you deliver your example, very specifically, and always be prepared for those probing questions. And people don't think about that either. I set people up to, you guys are going to laugh because I know you're hiring managers, right? How you do interview. The table has turned. I set you guys up so that when you give an answer, you already know what the probing question is, because you're setting the interviewers up. You should always know what's coming. That's what I mean by being very
But there's a lot of
intentional.
preparation, isn't it? I guess you need
Yeah.
to start preparing the minute you apply.
I mean, in a matter of fact, before you apply for a job, you should be ready, because things go
Exactly.
really fast, right? A lot of people are like, "Well, Holly, I don't want to prepare for an interview. I just want you to help me land a job interview." I'm
Mhm.
like, "You're not ready. You can't even answer very briefly, what do you want to do next? There's no way you can pass an interview." There are times that I feel like I'm going back and forth because people are so anxious right now.
Is there any
Get it.
common traits that you see amongst people who have been successful in the MANG companies? Do you see any sort of trait that's demonstrated by most of them?
I see the trend to be very similar across the board. It's funny because a lot of people, they come to me and I hear what they're struggling with, and they're all the same. They're the same even if you are a new graduate, if you are a VP or an SVP, it's really the same, right? Just different levels in their career stage. But at the end of the day, their preparation is also very much the same. I know I'm sounding really crazy right now. I'm comparing apples and oranges, new grad and an executive or leadership. It's really the same kind of struggle, right? I want to work for Amazon. I don't know how to be, it's a solution architect. How am I supposed to do that? It's the same thing. You have to do your homework. You have to be prepared. What kind of skills are you bringing on the table? What have you done to have this positions? What do you know about the project that you're getting yourself into? A lot of people, I think, are so stuck with, I want a job, but they forget,
Mhm.
how am I going to get the job? and be prepared. Especially right now, I don't mean to sound rude. People are so anxious. They don't think about doing the work. It's driving me crazy. Now I'm being a little bit raw here. I feel like this is the YouTube channel. It's coming back. Okay, it's coming
Not
back
at all.
now. I know.
That's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, so that preparation is one of the key aspect of anything you do, and especially you can't like just walk in and show that, hey, I would pass with everything, I would know everything. Yes, you know, but that's not they're interviewing for. They're interviewing for a specific thing, and that's why the question may be around and things will be based on that. So yeah, I agree on that. Now I want to take a step back here and understand like how that the things come. So let's say a job position open up, somebody applies. So first thing comes is like a CV shortlisting. So how can a candidate can outshine their other profile? Because you get hundreds of CVs. So
Yep.
how you do the recruitment? So this is one part of the question. So how candidate can outshine their profile? And before that, like what is the way the process works for CV shortlisting? So these are the two questions somehow related.
The one thing when I start coaching now is very different on how I coach before the recessions, before 2020, put it that way. If I look at your LinkedIn profile and your resume, it should be almost duplicating each other. Back then, it should be very different. Your resume is a lot more detailed. It hits all the buzzword or the algorithm. And then your LinkedIn is very concise. Now because you're competing with, let's just say a couple thousand, just to be polite, rather than a million people for each job that you're interested in. So not only do you have those key buzzword, if you don't know what key buzzword is, Google it. If you go to Google and put solution architect as an example, it'll give you all those buzzword, right? Infrastructures, cloud, hybrid, all that stuff. Aside from that, every single one of your bullets are key component. It's in your bullet. I did a talk for AWS Women in Tech last year, and this is similar to what I said is every single one of your bullets should be an answer to every interview questions. In fact, every single one of them should be what is the most innovative thing you've done? How have you done it? If you ask yourself those questions and you look at your own bullet and you don't have it, that's a big problem. Because if I look at someone's LinkedIn profile, I can tell what they have done, what was the result. I can feel the depth of their environment. If you don't know what their environment is, if you work for a company that I've never even heard of, then obviously I'm going to go with someone that is an I don't know, Apple, because I know Apple, right? Apple is a big company.
Right.
You better boost up I talk about branding for this entire year so far. Every single week I talk about branding. I have tutorial about branding as well on LinkedIn and resume specifically about this topic because your bullets and the impression that it's getting from your brand have to feel like you. So if you are a solution architect or you want to be a solution architect and you don't have enough tech experience yet, great. There's nothing wrong with that. What have you been doing? Are you taking certifications? When is that certification due? Do you have any courses or training somewhere else? Where else are you going to gain those skills? Because all of that's going on your LinkedIn and your resume, by the way, right? Because if not, we have Amazonians here in the house and they're evaluating so many people. Why should they spend their time on you? Now, outside of that, employers are never looking for 100% fit. They're looking for people who are hungry and have the right aptitude. I know I sound very crazy, but when I look at a branding, it's so obvious for me if someone is putting in the heart and soul in building their career. I'm interested into talking to those people than the ones who have flying color. You know, they're solution architect for all these startups and they built all this great things. So if you don't have that technical background, don't feel like you can compete with a lot of people who does. I don't know if the people who are watching right now follow just certification. I know that you guys talk a lot about that. Parna, I just have a thumb up on one of your recent posts on LinkedIn about certification training that you just got. I follow Victoria. Victoria was one of my former member as well. And she also talks a lot about free courses for AWS Solution Architect. So what exactly are you doing to gain those experiences? And you can talk about them. If you don't have the experience, because I see a lot of folks going back getting certifications right now, they can be software engineer and they're shifting career. They can be product program manager and they're shipping into tech because SA and anything that has to do with cloud and security are the number one high demand skills right now. So how do you be shortlisted in the process on your CV and your overall branding? You have to demonstrate what you have done into building that portfolio, and you have those experiences. You have to be very clear what was some of the stuff that you have done. Okay, when I say clear, if you don't know what I mean by that, go take a look at my LinkedIn profile. I'm very to the point. So for someone who doesn't know me at all, who wants to hire someone with a recruiting background or an interview training, when they drop into my LinkedIn, I want them to know everything about me and everything that I've done. That's your credential. So in your case, what is is your background? What have you done? Don't waste your time. I see so many people who have the entire paragraph for each bullet, one sentence or two sentences. That's it in every single bullet on your resume and on your LinkedIn, so people can know what you've done. That's it. It's very basic.
I actually have a question, like how much is too much? People think your resume should not go beyond 2 pages. Some say three.
That is
So,
true.
and if the over the years, as you go from mid to senior, obviously your experience keeps on increasing, and people really don't have the time to go through all that content. So, how do you really shorten that up? That's a question I think most people would have. You know, how I remember mine was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
15 pages long, and somebody
Oh
told
my
me,
goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Should be a
reason
novel.
the reason why is that employers do scan through your credential. If it gets too much, too overwhelming, they won't even want to look at it. The
Mhm.
right.
way how interviewers interview, and please do jump in and correct me if this doesn't make sense to the both of you guys. A lot of the times, they don't even look at resume because they want that human interaction with you when you're interviewing. The resume is good enough just to get you the job. The resume is also good that as you're interviewing, you can just print out your resume or have it on your monitor so you know what to respond to and kind of remind yourself the stuff that you've done. That's why if you think about what you have done, I coach folks to focus on the most recent 10 years and remove everything before that.
Okay.
Because if you're going to put your whole life on there, it's going to go to 20 pages. Another thing is biases, unconscious biases, which is something that I used to train at Amazon, by the way, unconscious biases among all the other courses, because you don't want people to unconsciously think about, oh my God, you have your college degree in, what is it, 1970? You don't want that. Well, if you remove a lot of the verbiage, the word, keeping your work history about maximum 10 years and nothing younger than that, or I should say older than that, because your first job should be, if you are a principal or someone at that level, right? I'm talking about the 10-year
Yeah.
gap. Your first job is, I'm a senior software engineer. Well, Holly, well, the employer doesn't know that I've done all of this. I don't think they care. I don't think they care that you start your
Exactly.
career as a technical support. Let's go ahead and move you up here. Let's move you up because they want to see most recently the last 5 years what they really care about. 10 years is really the max, but you have so much to talk about. Let's just say if you're an Amazonian, you've been at Amazon for 8 years, you could probably have 2 pages to talk about one project because they're doing so much execution. Like every month,
Sure.
something is launching, something's going live. But if you're working for other employer, just focus on the most recent 10 years, cut out all the bluff, and just focus on result, and start working backward. How did you achieve those results in 2 sentences in each and every bullet? Each one of your employers should not be more than 6 bullets. So if you guys do the math, you have a lot of space in 2 pages.
True. So I had a mentor who had reviewed my resume. So that was the first thing they said, Holly, just like yours, that you've just mentioned what you've done, but you haven't mentioned the result. So she reprimanded me on that you have to mention the result. So I coded something. That's not really an achievement. You know, what is it? Did you create some great product? How many users did it have? How many downloads did that have? Those kind of data, I think that really hits, right? The nail. You need to put in the data in your resume. In tech, how important is the soft skills sections? Many of us have to put in the section where we put in our behavioral skills. How important is that for a tech job?
For what I've seen and for all the hiring managers I have worked for that I've supported throughout my entire career, I have never seen a hiring manager that really care about the behavioral part. Part, you must be referring to soft skills.
Yeah,
Not
right.
not competency, but soft skill. And back to the thing about keeping your resume to 2 pages and also keeping your memory, right? No one's going to ask you, are you a good communicator? How do you do that? But they're asking you the interview questions. Tell me about a time that you have a poor customer feedback or negative
Exactly.
customer. That's different. But outside of that, I would say cut all that stuff. They will figure you out. You don't have to tell
Yeah.
them. So save your
Yeah.
energy. Focus on tech.
Yeah, means problem solver. We know that. That's why we are hiring. How does it you prove you are problem solver? Means I don't get by just the word problem solver. So yeah, I agree on that. I resonate to what you said, Holly. Like when I'm scanning for resumes, I check for, hey, what are the last 2 company candidate went? If it is like 5 years tenure, it gives me idea. And obviously technology changes so fast that I can't rely on your 10-year back experience as a technical person because that has been become outdated as of now.
I mean, I think even right now, more so than ever, I think a lot of people are trying to impress employers or the recruiters. So they put even like not just problem, so excellent troubleshooter. I'm like, wow, those are fancy words I've never seen before on resume these days. Just focus on the meat. I talk a lot about like the meat and the content of your background. Focus on that because the interviewer, that's all they care about. They don't care about anything else.
I have one question taking a step back, Holly. Most of the time, people send their resume for a profile and it goes into a black hole. No response. Hey, I'm waiting. Nothing happening. What they can do in that case?
The rule number 1 is even before the layoff is recruiters are going to hate me for saying this. I don't coach people to apply to jobs. I never coach people to apply for job. Exactly what you just say, Ashish. You will go into a black hole because everyone is doing the same thing. I
Exactly.
like to teach people to think outside of the box a little bit rather than just apply like everyone else. Let's just say I want to work for Parna's org. I want to be in training and development, whatever she's doing. So easy, guys. Go to LinkedIn, just put training and development manager. What is it? You're already a manager? Great. Director. Look for a director. There goes your hiring manager. You don't know who the hiring manager is? Don't worry about it. What location you want to work at? India? Great. Just put India on it and it'll pop up.
Exactly.
Amazon and all the other employers are really big, but don't waste your time in just applying to job because everyone is doing it. The recruiters and hiring managers are so overwhelmed. They don't want to review 1,000 people for one job. They want to review maybe 10 best candidate and the position will be closed very quickly. So your choice is if you reach out to the hiring managers directly, they already know you. So all they have to do is ping their recruiter and say, hey, wow, this person, they reach out to me and they actually look pretty good. Can you schedule an informational call or a phone interview? That's it. That's how simple it is. A lot of people are afraid to reach out to hiring managers directly.
Hmm.
But if you're afraid to do that, how on earth are you going to pass a phone interview? It's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's the same theory. I also teach people because, like I've mentioned earlier, they're so anxious right now. I don't even teach them to message hiring managers. I teach them to put a 30-minute video clip. Remember,
Hmm.
guys, if you want to talk for a minute, that's about 10 sentences. I'm asking you to put 3 to 5 sentences. That's a lot of words. Quick introductions. Why are you reaching out to the hiring managers? Why are you interested in his or her position? You're done. A short clip video. By the way, put it on YouTube, unlist it. No one can see it. That's it. And your
Yeah.
job is done.
So how important is the referral part in this? People who get a referral tend to be ahead of the line, right? What are the chances of people who don't really have a referral? Do they really stand a chance, especially in big tech companies?
Yes, and this is from personal experience. For the last 4 years running my own business, none of my, I call them member, but they're really client in my VIP coaching. They don't know anyone at Amazon. Specifically, we're talking about Amazon. It's a big company, but not everyone had worked for Amazon before. That is why if you don't know anyone to refer you into the employer of your choice, you gotta start networking because right now everybody's on LinkedIn. If you're a tech person, if
Absolutely.
you're a non-tech person, but you work for a tech company or want to work for a tech company, you got to have your LinkedIn. How you just can't connect with people without it. The one thing that a lot of the hiring managers and recruiters pay attention to is how many connection you have. That is true. That's a fact. You need to have at the bare minimum 500 plus because it will show on your profile. It
Really?
says 500
Okay.
plus. Yeah, it does. If you have less than 500, it's just that recruiters are always curious to know. I say that because I'm one of them and that's how I teach my team as well. They want to know who you know. If you
Right.
open your LinkedIn right now, on the far right hand column, it will say this person, view Holly Lee, and all these
Hmm.
people on Amazon. So if you have no connections, your profile is completely empty. So the odds of them responding to you and someone else that's blowing up on LinkedIn is very slim because with that profile, you can start networking and commenting on things and follow these folks here right now. You want to be a trainer for Amazon, follow them and comment on their things because it will show up on their feed and everyone who follow them can see your name popping up. So when people hear and see the same name 5 times, 10 times, 20 times,
Right.
like, oh, yes, I know that person. So
Right.
that's what I mean by knowing how to work the networking system within LinkedIn. This is the time to do it.
Sometime like for overseas job, there is a challenge, and sometime people refer through some hiring agencies or maybe through some agents. So does it work for these FAANG companies?
A lot of people use hiring agencies, but at the end of the day, I think they still have to take ownership and responsibility on how they're going after the position they want. Because
Hmm.
especially with agencies and all that, they're not like inside Amazon as an example, so they don't have the full scope. So it's really important for just job seekers, but you need to build that credibility with yourself and do yourself a favor and do your homework and not rely on agency, even internal people who are setting you up for the position that you want. You need to do all your homework about the org, the company, the hiring managers, everything, more so than ever because there's so many people going after the same role right now. I would do that.
Let's say you got your shortlisting, you have first round of interview. How you prepare for the next thing? Because obviously you have to raise the bar with everything. You already exhausted with first round. Now second round is coming up. You are anxious. What is the tip for the second round?
Well, that's giving yourself more pressure, my friend. I always tell people that before you even start the interview process, you have to be interview ready because the first round is a technical phone screen. And oftentimes you will have the second technical phone screen. If not, you will have a short on-site loop or virtual loop and very common because rather than interviewing with 4 or 5 people in one day, they split into 2, or sometimes it's lacking information. You'll come back to interview with 1 or 2 more. So if I were you, from the moment you start interviewing with any employer, you have to know and create. And I talk about 20 different stories. I know it sounds really vague. Even if you're interviewing for tech, you still need 20 different stories. For instance, if someone asks, what is the most challenging thing you have ever done, or what is the most difficult problem you've ever solved? If you're a tech, obviously, technical problem you've ever solved. But if you're, let's just say, a product person transitioning into tech, talk about the product. So you have to think about it really, really quickly, because that question can go in your initial phone screen, your on-site, or like a third on-site, fifth on-site. So it's the same thing. I think it's depending on the interviewer, the type of question is really the same thing, and they just kind of recycle. So I know that's kind of like a trick question for you. That's why you have to be prepared for any questions that's being thrown at you, and not just think about, this is a phone screen, Holly. I'm going to work with you and hire you as a coach. When I get to the onsite, I'm like, wait, that may be a little bit too late. Can you pass the phone screen? When you haven't done anything right now, you don't even know,
Right.
you can't even answer basic question right now.
Can there be a scenario where you may not have an experience about the question they asked? Does it go against you if you say that, sorry, I didn't have that experience? Does it go against you?
No, as an interviewer myself, I actually love that. I would rather you not waste my time and try to make things up, because interviewers are smart, especially Amazonians, because they can call out your buff really fast. So do them a favor and say, I'm so sorry, I haven't done this before, I haven't built this before. Can I give you a different example like this? What is it? You
Okay.
just can't tell people, I don't have the experience, period. You don't have the experience, they will thank you. So let's move on. What else can we talk about? What else can I share about my background that maybe could be relevant to the question?
Another thing happens, sorry, like, hey, I applied for a job, I got the interview, now no messages. It's, though it doesn't happen with Amazon and other companies, they are very proactive. But yeah, for others, like, hey, I applied and I'm waiting, I'm anxious, what I should do now? Should I reach out to recruiter? Should I see what happened? Or should I wait? Or would it show I'm impatient? How
I'm
to handle
impatient.
that?
That's like the number one questions right now. I would say usually when you start the interview process, at least once a week, you will always want to follow up with your recruiter. And if you have the name of the person who phone interview you or interview you, most likely the hiring managers, do not stalk them, but gently send them a message. That's why I talk about LinkedIn so much. LinkedIn, or between LinkedIn, email, recruiters also do text messagings, by the way, guys. Yes, we do, because they're really busy. It actually makes you stand out from all the other people. I talk a
Yeah.
lot about thinking outside of the box. Sometimes they're really busy. Not that they're being rude and ignore you. They're really busy. For you, you think that, oh my God, it's been 3 weeks, I haven't heard back, there's no feedback. But for the recruiter or hiring manager, think, oh my God, I'm trying to put the fire with, oh shoot, it's already a month. But for them, it felt like it's just an hour ago. So I would say reach out to them intentionally once a week. They could also be waiting for a rec to get approved. I talk a lot about that on my channel as well. I think the video is offer pause and also offer rescinded. There's a lot of reasons, but I would say don't get freaked out. If you've made it to the phone screen on the onsite, that means you've done really well. So for any reason, if the position is paused or the record's on hold or anything like that, they will always remember you, any employer. So you make sure that you stay connected with them, and they're not going to ignore you completely, but you need to keep the momentum because people are really busy right now. There's a high volume of candidates.
On the same line, maybe I did not got selected for this job. How I leverage that recruiter as my advantage, how I keep connected with her instead of stalking her. Hey, do you have any job for me? What else I could do so that she would remember that, okay, Ashish could be a good candidate for this thing, because obviously they are also looking for candidates. So how I could build that relationship directly with the recruiter.
Well, I can tell you this though. I've been a recruiter for a lot of time in my life, and the people I've hired at Amazon, people that I've supported, became really good friends to me. That is because you need to build relationship. Recruiters are your best friend, whether you like it or not. You don't have a choice, because that recruiter, if they leave Amazon, they go to Tesla. That's still your best friend at
Exactly.
Tesla now, right? Don't be fake, be real, get to know people. And early on, I talk about following people. Like if I'm really interested in you, I believe your background and what you're doing is excited. We have a common interest. For the audience right here, I love training and development. I love it to death, right? And building community, I will follow you. So when people know that you follow them, and among all the other people who keep on stalking the same recruiters, hey, a job, do you have a job for me? Or I want to follow up. No, they will eventually fade away. But if you come in and say, wow, congratulations on your new job offer, and your recruiter recruiter will be really shocked that you still maintain that relationship with them and follow them. So even if you don't meet the bar at, let's just say, Amazon, and they went to like Google, they will still know you because people change, time change. You may have grown like 6 months later or a year later after you fail your interview, assuming that is the case. And they would actually take an effort and jump on the phone and coach you through all that. Now, not only do you have a best friend as a recruiter, you also get free advices from them because at the end of the day, the recruiters get to keep their job because they have hired you.
There are roles where the salary or the budget is not mentioned, and people are hesitant whether they should apply for it and at what stage they should talk about or ask about the salary. Is it rude for people to ask it at stage one before going phone round itself? What do you think about that?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Number one, if you're already at a FAANG company, let's just say because Google and Facebook, those two companies have a reputation to pay a lot on base salary. And then Amazon has a reputation on execution and bias for action. So the question you got to ask yourself before you negotiate is, what do you want? Why do you want to join Amazon versus Google and make more money? Everybody knows that this is not anything secretive. And if I'm already at a FAANG company, if I know that I'm interviewing, even like Microsoft, they pay less. Then why do you want to, is it work-life balance? Why do you want to go specifically to those companies? So from FAANG to FAANG, the recruiter is going to ask you right off the bat because it helped us to put your offer together to know, am I going to waste your time? Am I going to look bad in front of my hiring manager right here and we can't afford you and you make 100,000 more than our offer? That's embarrassing. That's why your recruiter asks you upfront, what is your salary expectation? But if you're already at the FAANG, I would share a little bit. If you want to make more or a lateral move, maybe the ABC company can't afford you, they can't afford you. If you have that relationship with the recruiter, you can give them like a little bit your expectation, but don't give them in detail every single thing. But ultimately, I want to focus at the end of the interview because if everyone gives me a thumbs up, it's giving me more leverage to negotiate. In the very beginning, for instance, if you're asking me, Holly, what is your comp expectations? I'll give you my expectation of what I want to make, but I'm not giving you any detail because I know I've done all my research. I know what the band is and I know what the ranges are. But at the very end of the interview, from the moment I know that you want to make me an offer, do not email. A lot of people email back and forth. Like, why are you guys emailing back and forth to negotiate? Jump on the phone with your recruiters because you want to hear it on their voice. You can hear if they can afford you. Are they going to go through exceptions for yes, they can? Amazon doesn't want to hear that, but yes, they can. Make them fight for you. The hiring manager will fight for you because if you are a glowing candidate, you know how hard it is for them to find you right now when 1,000, 10,000 people are going through the same job. They don't want to go through all that again. It's a lot of work for them.
So yeah, Prasad has been waiting for to jump in. Here he is. I have one question, Prasad, before I let you ask. Now, same question, Holly. Like, can I get some feedback from recruiter? Which is like, I don't know why you didn't select me. How recruiters are in this case, or what could I do to frame that question differently so I get something out of it? I'm curious why I failed. I thought I am the flying colors. I have everything which you wanted, but I failed. So what can I do in that case?
This conversation is going to make recruiters not like me after they see this. This is like secret 101. And this is exactly what I train recruiters as well, is to not provide feedback because there's a lot of gray areas, right? Because we want to be a good person. We want to help you guys. Because if we don't give you feedback, you don't know what to improve or work on. And you just kind of keep on failing over and over and over again. But here's the thing. I personally have given feedback because I care. I'm very obsessed with my candidates. But when you give feedback, and let's just say someone came from MIT, the Harvard of the world, and they have like 8 years experience. They are like the #1 performer at Facebook and they bomb the AWS interview and their butt hurt. And here comes me giving them a feedback. If I were you, I would focus on system design, your object-oriented analysis. And they're like, the hell is this person telling me? I don't know how to design. I have no architectural background. And guess what? That person, true story, all of you guys who's listening, that is why your recruiter don't give you feedback. They escalated me to my manager and we laughed about it. We actually all sat in the table with my team. We laughed about it. And my manager says, Holly, what did you do? Look at this feedback. Look at this negative candidate feedback about you. I'm like, all I did was I was being really honest. I tell them because I don't want to waste their time. They bombed 2 times already. I don't want to see them keep on bombing, right? Look at the glowing background, the MIT and the Harvard in the world. They can't pass an Amazon interview, right? It is not just about technical experiences, guys. It's about how they deliver the answer. It was so long-winded. They didn't go back. They didn't check the code. They didn't do the quality assurance like they should. That's why they didn't get the job. There's like a lot of different reasons. But people do not want to hear feedback. That's the truth. I know that if you ask other recruiters, they will probably feel the same way. But if you come to me and say, hey, Holly, by the way, your YouTube channel, you need a voice coach. Someone actually told me that, by the way. Somebody did.
Wow.
They did. Like, well, I love your content, but have you thought of hiring a voice coach? And I'm like, so you're trying to tell me to change myself. I can't. I don't know how to change myself. So I think like for the tech folks and for the engineer is a way to deliver the answer. That's how they have done. That's the environment they're in. And they're not aware of that. So when they have a complete stranger who's not even technical like me to tell
Mhm.
them and kind of they feel like put them in their place, they get butthurt. But the biggest reason here is making great hiring decisions, by the way. I love training that class to death. That is a legal issue. You don't want to step over your boundary. You
I
don't.
get your
The
point.
best thing to do is to be vague because when you give people too much information, you know they're going to write it down, especially when you get feedback in email. No, no.
No.
They can come back, and I don't like to use the word sue you on it. They will sue the company for it because, again, I'm an MIT. You're telling me I can't code, right? And I have 8 years
Yeah.
of experience. And I'm sorry, I can't pass a level 5 at Amazon. I have 8 years experience. They're not going to like that.
No, I can imagine that. I can imagine that. Here is my question. Like, we talked about people who is already working for a FANG and then switching between FANGs. And it might get difficult, but probably it is easier path for them. My story, like, when I passed out of college, I interviewed with Amazon and Microsoft and I got rejected. And then I was able to get in tier 2 companies and I was very happy there. But at some point in career, someone referred to me and I was able to get through the interview. I was not going to apply for it, but somehow one person convinced me that you should. And it turned out to be great. So my question is that if someone is happy with where they are without, exploring their potential that they can do better and get into FANG companies for whatever reasons, like just for the experience or for money or whatever, how do they break that loop, get into that? How do they realize their potential that clearing FANG company is not something it's only for the top 1% of the world. Anyone can become there.
How you feel right now, you missed the conversation from about half an hour ago where I compare new graduates to leadership executive. They're all the same, even executive and principal level at Facebook, Meta, and they want to work for AWS, true story, or Apple. I know you guys are looking at me like I'm crazy right now. True story, by the way. Apple wanted to go to AWS. Ollie, I feel like this is out of my lead. I heard a lot of horror story of how fast paced Amazon works, and I'm really scared. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I can do self-doubt, right? So they kind of talk themselves out of it rather than focusing on, you know what? I'm badass. I got a degree from whatever school. You don't even have to be elite school or top tier because that's why I talk about Amazon so much because the company doesn't really care where you got your education from. It's more about, are you willing to learn? Are you smart enough to provide an answer where you're going to get the job because you're making the employer feel comfortable that you're not going to waste the hiring manager's time in holding your hand, but you'll figure it out on your own. The ability to be hungry and having the aptitude to learn is what's going to help you grow. To answer your question, everybody have self-doubt. I have self-doubt. You know how long for me to have a YouTube channel? I sat there for a year. I watched all the YouTuber blew up YouTube. I should have blown up YouTube myself, but nope. I sat back and I watched them. And I didn't even have the guts to do it. Even when I did it, I was so shy and embarrassed. It's very embarrassing. And I left them there because I want to remember my mistakes so I can be better. So if you have self-doubt, don't try to be perfect and apply to one of your dream FAANG company. Just do it. What's it going to do? Not get the job? Great. Now go back and prepare better so you can get the job the next time. It doesn't matter what company you work for. If you truly are someone who are eager and highly, highly ambitious, Amazon is really the only employer that can help you grow in your career. Because when I was at Google, I took a pay cut to go from Google to Amazon because I was so hungry and I can't sit still. I want my brain to exercise because my brain is missing something. And I didn't even think I would get hired at Amazon because of the stories that I heard, how hard it is and people don't last there and how fast they move. So for me, I choose to fight. I told myself that, you know what? I already work for one of the best companies in the world, and that's Google. I'm so spoiled here. I don't want to be spoiled. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to teach. I want to train. I want to do this. I don't care if you pay me less money. I just want to do it. So when they gave me an offer, I almost fall off my chair. I'm like, wow, okay, now what? And I'm so scared. Really, guys, even like my first day at work, I was shaking. That's how nervous I was working for Kindle at the time. Everyone have a fear of insecurity because you care. You want to do well. And that's a very good thing to have. If you don't feel afraid, then what's there to learn? I mean, that's the way I see it.
I share this story every time, Holly. Like when I joined Amazon first day and I was talking to people in my team, I felt like I'm the dumbest person on the table at that
Yep.
moment.
Yep.
So I had that fear for a long time. Then I realized that, okay, maybe not the same thing. I'm not the dumbest, but maybe it is the same thing everyone is thinking on the table because everyone comes from so different backgrounds, so so much different experience. So yeah, it's a humbling experience, and there is too much to learn from each of us. So that's a good thing.
If I may take like 2 minutes to share this story, because this is my best hire for Amazon. That person is still at Amazon. She's a level 6 now, by the way. When I hired her, she was a contractor. This is 9 years ago. She was a pizza delivery driver.
Wow.
Yep. Pizza delivery driver who came to me for a referral, and I was the only recruiting manager at the time who would interviewed her. But when I asked her about customer service, right, because I need someone to know how to coordinate, because this person have zero experience working with stakeholders, don't even know the definition of stakeholders, hiring managers. How are you going to schedule a recruiting event for me? This person put me in my place. That's why she was hired. She was so ballsy. She said, Holly, I know I don't have any experience. Let me tell you about my schooling for full time, delivering pizza and 2 other jobs. That's how badly I want this job. I said, tell me, what was the biggest problem you have ever solved in your career, ever solved in customer service? She said, Holly, I don't have much experience, but can I tell you about a time where I changed the engine of my car? I'm like, what? Okay, I want to hear this. I want to see if she's BSing me, right? I'm like, sure, I want to hear it. And my mind was blown. I'm like, oh my God, this girl's so smart. So right off the bat, I was like, okay, inclined to hire. Here's why I was so motivated and I'm so hyped up to have her on my team. So here comes a debrief. My boss was a director. My boss was at Amazon for already at the time 20 years. And I have to convince him and the bar raiser to give this person to me. And guess what? From the moment that person started, all the recruiting manager fought for her. And I lost her almost right away because she was so smart. 8 years later, she's a level 6 PM in recruiting for Amazon. No college
Awesome.
degree, by the way. Pizza delivery.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. Means sometimes it's like so much potential is there, and you need a direction, and that's why people like you, Holly, are helping people in getting that direction and breaking through that barrier. So it's a really humbling experience.
I just don't want people to feel so intimidated, because right now a lot of, and I coach them, right? I said, if you're a project manager, program manager, product manager, what are you waiting on? Get the AWS certification or practitioner, because that let the employer know that you are interested in tech. Even you're applying to like Google Cloud and all that. I get this a lot, by the way. They said, Holly, if I have a choice between Google Cloud, Microsoft certification, and AWS, which one? Like AWS. And I'm not saying it to be biased. Again, Amazon's not paying me for this at all. I'm saying this because that's what the market is calling for. It's a brand. But if you're going to put a brand or certification stick to your name, you want a brand that you can get a job anywhere else. If you have Microsoft certification and you go and apply to Amazon or Google or Meta, it's not the same environment. It's not really the same. If you have Google Analytics, I'm getting that a lot from a lot of the job seekers. That's great. But when you go into like an Amazon or like an Apple or other employer, does it transfer the certification or experiences that you have? But if you have the AWS certification, I heard that there are some that are, a lot of them that are free. The question is, like, it's kind of like, what are you waiting on? If you see them with a whole pile of AWS certification, I'm like, yes, that person I want to interview. You don't even need the tech experience. Just do it. It's free. It doesn't
Exactly.
make cost
Yes.
anything but their time.
I want to pick a question here, Holly. And companies say age, nationality, etc. doesn't matter, but do they actually practice it?
That's why I teach unconscious bias in all the company I've ever worked for. You know why company has unconscious bias? Because sometimes not that they purposely look at how old you are or where you're coming from. I teach people back in like an hour ago, I talk about resume and branding a lot. I actually teach people to remove the year they graduate from school, because I can figure out how old you are. But sometimes it's just the feeling that you put on the table and you're not even aware that you're doing it. Nationality is another thing. If you have a name from, I'm Vietnamese, I'm Vietnamese Chinese, right? If I tell you my Vietnamese Chinese, you'd be like, huh? What? That's Holly's name, right? I don't even use it. It's Holly Lee, by the way. From the moment I turn to Holly Lee, I get job offers. But if I have my Vietnamese name, I think that sometimes when recruiters or employers have a difficulty time pronouncing your name, it almost makes them feel bad, and they wanted to pause for a second and look at other candidates. Not that they're doing it intentionally, they just don't want to embarrass themselves. Okay, that's what I mean by unconscious bias. I can tell you this, age discrimination, if I'm focusing on Amazon as a company, it doesn't exist, because Amazon, if anything, a lot of the people, I think early on we talk about how smart the company is. I feel like I'm the dumbest person when I work at Amazon. I did. Not anymore, after years and years and years and years, but in the beginning, yes, because they hire people based on skills, not your age, not what year you came out of school. But I wanted to confidently say there are companies out there, no names, that look for what is called the culture fit, meaning that if you're looking at a young group or young companies, or maybe a company that's been around for 50 years, but they're building something new, and everyone there is in their 20s and 30s, and you are in your 50s and 60s, not that they don't want to hire you, they just know that you are probably going to be uncomfortable when they hire you. You see where I'm going? It's not that the employers are intentionally being disrespectful. They're thinking about you, not thinking that you want the job, but are you actually going to be the right fit? So culturally, it's a principle in every single interview. Even if you fit the position, you don't get the job, but culturally, are you actually a match? I don't think nationality, to be honest, has to do with it. But as a hiring manager myself, I don't want to just hire one type. Amazon, for example, I have everything. I have Mexican, Indian, China. I have like all over the world. That was my team because I want to be as diverse as possible. Sometimes you don't get that fortunate. Sometimes you get a candidate that comes to you and they're good, they meet the bar. You have to hire them because you got things to take care of, projects to execute. It shouldn't matter. The bottom line is it's good for you to do your homework. If you're interviewing for that team of hiring managers, look at that person and ask the right questions. What is the making of your team? How does the leveling balance? Are they all senior level? Then you can kind of figure out how old they are, right? Are they all junior level? Why is this position open? So ask the right question.
Please tell me about a time when you had to make a difficult decision in your career path. If we talk about something negative, is that okay? I mean, probably we took a decision which backfired, or it was not really a positive kind of a decision that we took. I mean, how does it reflect on the candidate?
The one thing I would say is that questions, and also another famous question is your career failure or mistakes. It's absolutely okay. And you probably should talk about your challenges because interviewer love to hear that. They don't always want to hear everything is glowing. Even if it is, they're going to ask you, what are some of the obstacles? But remember this though, it doesn't matter what challenges you have. They're more interested in what you have learned to overcome it. So don't give an example at the end, I failed. I'm like, well, obviously you didn't learn anything about it. So how did you overcome those challenges of the difficult decisions?
Great.
I would add that at the very end. Don't tell me you don't have it because all of you guys tell me you don't have it and you do have it. Just think a little bit harder. They have the result, but they don't think that's a result. I'm like, no, that is a really good ROI. Talk about the ROI and added value. But Holly, I'm not really sure. I'm like, yes, did you save them time? Did you bring up their efficiency? Maybe they were they're losing bandwidth and you're able to bring them up from 20% to 80%. That's a big deal. Talk about that. Did you have them save money? So really think big about that. Everyone has ROI. They just don't think about it.
Before pandemic, it was all used to be in-person interviews. During pandemic, it is like virtual interviews. And now you have sometimes you have an option. So if the interviews need to choose between going in person or interview, which one should a person choose?
Well, you're talking to the wrong person. For me, I like in-person interview because I want to see the interviewer's body language. I just love connecting with people, but a lot of people are shy and reserved and no one likes interview. I love interviewing, by the way, all day long, but I'm pretty sure no one likes that because, bias. I'm very biased. I love, this is what I do and breathe on. It's just a virtual interview is very awkward. I'm staring at the little light right now at the camera. You see me looking down because you guys are down here and the cameras are up here. And sometimes when you do that, the interviewer may think that you're cheating. You're doing this or you're doing that. I don't know if you can notice, but in video, if you move your eye even like very fast like this, it looks like I'm rolling my eyes. There's just a lot of biases as well. I would highly encourage, if you can, do it in person. And I don't want the interviewer to be distracted. I don't know if you're paying 10 other people, if you're taking notes on what I'm saying. That's just my 2 cents.
I want to address one different type of question. Let's say I got offer from 4 companies. I accepted one. I obviously going to deny 3 of them. How I should not burn the bridges, because it's a small world, isn't it, Holly? Like maybe I would run into you again, and I don't want to create that kind of impression that, hey, this guy backs out every time I hire him.
I actually encourage people to interview with companies that they never heard of. I tell people and I coach people before you land or interviewed with your FAANG, your dream job. Why do you do that? Why don't you interview with companies where if you don't get the job, it hurts you, but it doesn't hurt you as much and through the experiences. But there is a 50% chance possibility that you may fall in love with, let's just say, a startup, a mid-sized company you never heard of, because the hiring manager very much intrigue you. The salary they're giving you is probably more than like Amazon. I'm just totally making this up, by the way. And it happens. There's a lot of my members who end up going to startup and reject like a meta offer. But politely, if you were to decline a job, you have to make them feel that you're putting a lot of thought into each and every person. I would thank each and every interviewer to let them know that, hey, I did pay attention. This is not just a game for me, but thank you so much for spending the time with me. I love your product. Talk about the product that you interview for. Basically, you're giving your time back to not make them feel like you just wasted everybody else's time to maintain that. But if you're going to re-interview again and decline the offer twice and 3 times, that's where you're upsetting me. Do not do that. Do not burn that bridge. 1 time, yes, you're forgiven. 2 times, okay, now I'm getting a little cold with you. Why do you keep on declining me for AWS? Are you using me for AWS? Probably yes. And the person, the interviewer, most likely is going to go to AWS. It's a cycle in recruiting, not in recruiting, sorry, in the workforce. Even a lot of people who left Amazon, they go to a startup. So that's what I was talking earlier on about the FAANG process. It should all be the same. It doesn't matter what company, because you got the bar racer going to the startup, and guess what that program is called? Similar to the bar racer program. True story. I've done that too.
I agree on that. It's a small world. Like you run into recruiters again, and then hey, not this guy.
I
This
know
guy.
you now. I'm watching you. I'm watching where you're going now. I'm like, oh, look at him. He left AWS for startup. Let me see here.
Now I want to like address the elephant in the room in the sense that what are the common mistakes made by unsuccessful candidates? Yeah, we know who succeeded, that's fine, but what is a common big no when you say, hey, this doesn't fit like a next move, or we should not go forward?
The number one common thing is the candidates never share how they have delivered results. They don't. That's a number one thing. I'm going to push this back to like a new graduate and also a leadership candidate and principal level. Same thing, because they're so gung ho. Yes, I built this, I've done this, but no one really talk about how they've done it. That's like the number one most common thing. All companies, they do that. I know for those of you who's watching, you're doing this. I can see you guys doing this. That's true.
I just wanted to ask, talking about flexibility, work from home, is that okay to talk at the beginning stages of your interview, or you need to complete it and then you can start asking for other stuff? What do you
I
think
think
about it?
in this case, I will be on the employer side to not waste their time. If your intent is you don't have the ability to travel, but like I'm a single parent with a 5-year-old, there's no way I'm going to go to the office 5 days a week or at all. Number two, there's no way I can take business trip on a fly because I have a 5-year-old. I would be very intentional and honest with the employer upfront, because when they interview you, you want them to get excited. You don't want to burn the bridges. We talked about burning bridges earlier. You don't want the aha moment where everyone look at the table and you're going to make the recruiter look really bad. The hiring manager will look at the recruiter and say, why haven't you done your homework? Did you know that this person's not willing to relocate or travel? And this job require, oops, I changed my mind. They're traveling 30% now. I would be really upfront with that.
Holly, this time, like right now, very turbulent time. Amazon is not hiring, other companies are firing. So maybe I want to move forward, but what can I do in this turbulent time? Obviously, there is no job opening, but it doesn't mean that I can't make any effort. So what can I do in this particular time?
You should be networking and building relationship at this time. And a lot of people want to work for Amazon. A lot of them still do. They'll accept an offer from a startup and wait, literally waiting for Amazon to come back to live and then go into AWS specifically. And I said, this is a time where you wanted to look at the org that you're interested in. Is there a particular product or services, or what do you want to do with such a giant company? Because Amazon is like a mothership. There are thousands of different initiatives underneath. Then I would start reaching out to the people who are there. They may not be hiring manager. If I'm interested in training program for Amazon, they're not hiring, I'll reach out to all of the people here. So you need to connect with them so people know who you are. Don't wait until there's open position and then you're going in, because that's what everyone is doing. I talk a lot about, thinking really big and doing things that are different from everybody else. When I say the word networking, everyone freaks out. I have tutorial, hold people's hand. I reviewed people's resume and LinkedIn for free, by the way, every single week, sometime like 10 of them in a row. And people get freaked out when they hear branding, they just kind of shut down. But rather than building their portfolio, because if you don't feel good about yourself, when you network with somebody, they're not going to feel good about you. So now that it comes time to interview and there's recs opening at Amazon, you're not ready, because number one, your confidence is slowly going down because you have a lack of brand, and people don't really think beyond that. So when I say LinkedIn and resume, they're so nervous and they just kind of shut down. I think that they're letting the anxiety and the huge noise level of layoff taking the best out of them instead of just doing something about it.
Interesting. That's a good one.
How do you do a 1-minute answer? Think about the STAR method, but don't be complicated. Think about one, what are you trying to talk about? 1 sentence. I talk about 1 minute. It's 10 sentences. I don't even go that long. 2, your T, your task. What are you solving for? Simply just say, I'm solving for what? Fill it in. 3, your action. Here's what I've done to dive deep to figure out the root cause of this. And because of that, I was able to build a solution by doing what? 2 sentences. That's it. Lastly, because of my effort, it's resulting in what was your contribution? What was the ROI? ROI for a very clear client. Who is your client? It's very, very simple. By the way, if you're interested, I have 8 different templates on my YouTube channel for free. Just download it. There's no catch. There's actually a whole template with all of my experiences at Amazon, 1 minute or less, including the most recent 15 and 16 leadership principle.
And I want to conclude with one last question, Holly, here. What is your top 3 tips for anyone who wants to get recruited to these companies or anywhere be successful? Let's not generalize it for only AWS or anything, but what are like career tips you could give? 3 tips.
The first tip is branding. You need to know your brand, because when you know your brand, it's amazing. The person who's interviewing you, the person who's about to contact you for an interview will know your brand. Your branding, you have to fix that before you think about doing anything else. Number 2, once you have your brand, you need to learn how to network. Your social skills, I'm talking about technical professional here. Technical folks like to put their heads down and code all day or build things. They don't want to be social. I get it. But when you do that, no one knows you. If no one knows you, no one's going to contact. You need to expand your network. If you have less than 500 connection on LinkedIn, that's a problem because they can see that. Recruiters are attracted when you have a network, at least bare minimum 500 people, not people that you know, but people are in your industry. And I want you to start following them, because when you follow people, we talked about this earlier, they will acknowledge your name that kept on popping up. Don't stalk them. Follow them respectfully, and they will respect you and they will know you. So when you land a job offer somewhere else, you want them to be your cheerleader. People do that on LinkedIn. Okay. Even right now with the layoff season, everybody and their mom and dad are on LinkedIn. And 3, as you have your brand and you network, this is the best time for you to be interview ready. I know I sound very crazy right now. A lot of people do this to me, guys. Holly, you're crazy. I don't even have an interview. Why should I work for my interview? Well, you're networking, right? What if Prasad here wants to jump on a call with you? Are you ready to talk to him? Then you're not interview ready. It's so simple. You know, when people ask me questions like that, but Holly, I don't understand. Why do I have to fix my resume? I don't have a problem landing interview. Great. Did you pass the interview? No. Well, then something's wrong with your resume. I'm going to assume as your ROI and your bullet, that's not there. So everything is like falling back to stage number 1. Fix your branding.